All right, folks, welcome back to the program. So I guess we're all trying to learn a lot this morning about gratuities and how this works. And I mean, there are things here that I simply did not know. It's a learning process, especially because Cayman is obviously a jurisdiction that has, lots of it is tourism. And so I'm assuming that this impacts a lot of people. So yes, let's have the discussion. We'll get a bit more information on this. So some very, very interesting things coming in. One person says, I can't understand for the life of me why these government ministers avoid coming in CMR to talk to the vast majority of the people who listens to Radio Cayman. Well, apparently some people still do. um, Having said that, we do have the CETA president who's going to be calling in here shortly to clarify this. So look at that. CMR gets you results. So someone says bartenders earn over 55,000 a year because of the added gratuity. I heard a bellman makes 100,000 US per year because of gratuity. A bellman in Cayman? And please tell me where he's working so I can go to apply for that job. I want to be a bellman. That's probably at the Ritz or the Kimpton. $100,000 US? Ooh, honey, chill. We could do with that because you see them rich people, they got tip you know. By the way, speaking of rich people, while we're waiting on Troy to come on, did you guys know that what's his name there? Usher is on the island. I hope he's tipping well. Usher, if you're listening, tip him a little bit extra, honey child. That one person says, I need that job too. Yes, we could all do it. That little job. $100,000 a year. Hello. I'd be working my little patootie off, giving you extra special care. You gotta watch certain ones of these celebrities, though. They might want something that we can't deliver on. Speaking of that, Alejandro is absolutely ridiculous. Alejandro, you are in trouble today, honey child. Alejandro, so speaking of tipflation, what about hoflation? Alejandro. Alejandro, get out of the classroom right now. You can't even be in the back of the classroom. We have to put you outside. You are misbehaving. Well, they adjust their rates based on what's going on as well. So, Sheena says, I'm working for $6.90 per hour in the condos cashier pay. Cashier. Like in a restaurant or coffee shop. Oh my goodness. Alejandro's having a laugh. Darlene says the Ritz bellmen are very well paid or well paid. We need that job. I want to work in different industries for a day. I want to do like, a show about, Sandy is a bellman for a day or whatever. Like, I want to see what's involved and like have cameras and stuff, follow and be part of the process so that we can speak from an educated perspective a little bit when we talk about what some people are having to go through. Good morning, caller. Are you trying to call the program? I sent the link to Jay for you to join in. Just click on that link. Okay, then you can turn video off, or you can just call the show 936-2626, whichever you prefer. Yes. Okay, all right, thanks. All right. So this one says, I stopped telling to add more to my card for tip to the server because we find out after they never got it. Need to learn to carry cash to give directly to the server. So people are saying if you pay, they're not paying it to the server. So people don't want you to pay your bill like that. What a hot mess. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Sandy. It's Troy here.
Hey, Troy. How you doing?
I'm good. Been listening to your show. Want to just clarify a few points on the gratuities and the way that gratuities work and the way that they relate to service charges. As you know, I'm the president of the Cayman Islands Tourism Association. I also have two businesses, one of which is a restaurant. So I am
I didn't know that.
also... Yes. Vivo Restaurant in West Bay is my business as well.
Oh, that's the one down Northwest Point?
Yep, yep.
Oh, okay.
Little restaurant,
Yeah,
but
I've been there before. I didn't know that.
yeah, yeah. Good,
Hmm.
good. So I think that there's a lot of misunderstanding
Hmm.
about the terminology in Cayman.
Yes.
So we have various businesses do levy a service charge, and on the tab, it's usually shown as a service charge. So in a restaurant, for example, it may be 15%. Some restaurants may be as much as 18%. So
Hmm.
the first thing is that that is not a mandatory charge. You can ask for that to be removed from the bill. So that
Okay.
in the customer's mind, it would be seen as a tip.
Hmm.
But the difference between a gratuity and a tip is really important because it's administered differently in the law as well. So if you have a 15% gratuity or service charge on your bill,
Hmm.
and you decide to round it up to the nearest, I don't know, $5 or something, and make, whether you're paying by cash or paying by a credit card or whatever, if
Hmm.
you round that up, the difference between the amount that's on the tab and the amount you pay, that difference is called a tip. And tips are managed
Wait,
differently.
give me that definition again. Let me make sure I can process that.
Okay, so in the in the labor law
Hmm.
and in the pension law,
Hmm.
we talk about gratuities.
Hmm.
And gratuities, generally speaking, are amounts of money that are taken by the business, really on behalf of the employee, and it's administered through what is called an approved gratuity scheme.
Hmm.
So the reference that when we talk about gratuities, that's really important, right? So that money is taken by the establishment and it's often pooled and it's
Hmm.
redistributed according to an approved gratuity scheme. Now, what's really important about right, but any money outside of that is called a tip. And usually that's cashed out on the night. If I have a server at my restaurant that comes and they've gotten an extra couple of dollars on their tab, their ticket that the table that they served, they get that cash immediately. That's theirs. The
Hmm.
$2 is theirs, but the $10 service charge goes
Now, when
into
you
our
say
approved
service
gratuity scheme.
charge, is
Hmm.
that on the bill called gratuities?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
on the bill call. It's called a service charge. Okay, so that's where the
But
misunderstanding.
when
So
it
the
shows up
restaurant.
as a gratuity, what is that?
Okay, so my restaurant will have a service charge on it,
Uh-huh.
and that goes into what is called in our language an approved gratuity scheme. There's a legal definition of an approved gratuity scheme, and it has
Mm.
to be approved by the Department of Labor and Pensions. This is not just something we make up. This has to
Mm.
be approved. Okay,
Okay.
so let's just talk this through. So you've got a food bill. The
Mm-hmm.
bill is, I don't know, $50. Okay, and then you have a 15% charge on top of that. So you've got a 750 charge on top of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you decide to round it up and add another $2.50 because the server was particularly, pleasant tonight. The
Mm-hmm.
server gets the $2.50. It goes into
Mm-hmm.
their pocket at the end of the night. The 750
Mm-hmm.
service charge goes into our approved gratuity scheme. At the end of the pay period, all of the money that came into that approved gratuity scheme gets distributed to the staff according to an approved gratuity scheme that was pre-approved by the Department of Labor and Pensions. Not only does it have to be distributed, it has to be reported. So you have to actually show how much money was taken in through your service charge / gratuity scheme in the course of the month, and exactly how much was paid to each individual employee. Okay, so are we clear on this? And this goes on to our pay slip. It's there. They see very transparently what they're being paid in wages, and they're seeing very transparently what they're being paid in gratuities. Now, here's a key point. Further to that, employee withholding, pension withholding, is kept on the gratuities, and the employer has to pay the 5% pension on gratuities as well. So it's not like this is just money that just kind of gets slipped. This is money that is taken in, that is distributed, that is reported on, that is pensionable, and pension is paid on that gratuity.
Hmm.
That's something that is really important for everyone to understand. This is not, so there's a difference between a tip, which
Mhm.
is not taken in by the establishment, is
Mhm.
not distributed by the establishment, is not reported by the establishment, and pension is not paid on. So those are two different things in our jurisdiction, according to the labor pensions law.
Okay.
So that's really what I wanted to clarify.
Hmm.
Now,
And to clarify also, gratuities by law are not mandatory.
correct.
Hmm.
Absolutely. You have many restaurants that
Hmm.
do not put a gratuity on. And and this is and it's not only Cayman that does this, right? I mean,
Yes.
you go to, even in Europe, which does not have a tipping culture, you go to the big cities in London and whatnot, it's often added on. And a lot of times people would, it started where sometimes you'd show different examples. Nobody can calculate the 15%. So it has become somewhat of a cultural thing in North America and the
Hmm.
Caribbean, right? It
Hmm.
has been established for many. The thing is, Sandra, is that one of the things that I feel that Cayman has to offer,
Hmm.
and I think it's one of the reasons why the service in our country is often uh, pointed out that our service is much better
Hmm.
than some of our Caribbean neighbors. I run a small restaurant,
Hmm.
and I can tell you that when you have this pooling of service,
Hmm.
how many times do you go to a restaurant in Cayman and one person takes your order,
Hmm.
another person helps that person bring your meals, somebody else checks on you, somebody else pours your water. People work in teams, right? It's not like you
Hmm.
go to a restaurant in Miami where you have a waitress. She's the only person who interacts with you. When you want something, you're turning around, she's over there. Another waitress walks across your table. You're trying to flag her
Hmm.
down. Sorry, that's not my zone, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Whereas
And
in
I'll be
Cayman,
honest with you, even just reflecting on, we were at, like I said, Cheesecake Factory on Friday night, and somebody brought out the appetizers while the waiter was running to other tables. I mean, it is still a team effort. So the concept with gratuities then is that it is shared
absolutely.
amongst the entire team. Now, what about people who were saying that managers are dipping into this and taking this? Are managers traditionally entitled to a take of the gratuities as well?
Okay, so first of all, I can't speak for any specific establishment because
Yes.
the schemes, the schemes are documented, right? The schemes
Hmm.
are documented and they're approved.
Hmm.
So if a manager, I mean, again, it's your definition of manager, right? You could have a front
Hmm.
of house manager who isn't the owner of the business or something
Hmm.
like that. I mean, so they are also working the front of house. But the important point is that this is not something that some HR person or some owner of a business can go, oh, grats were really good this month. I'm not going to give the full amount. I'm going to take some of it.
Hmm.
That's not the way it works. You have to report just like you have to do for pensions. If you do
Hmm.
pension payments, right, you have to say, this is what my employees earn. Here's the 5% for their withholding. Here's the 5% for the employer contribution. So if we have a lack of enforcement, that is another issue. That is not
Hmm.
the issue, right? We have the law, we have the legislation, we have the schemes in place. These
Hmm.
schemes have to be pre-approved, and these schemes have to be reported.
Hmm.
I would find it very difficult to understand what one caller talked about, where the gratuities in low season is exactly the gratuities in high season, because I can tell you in every bit of information that I have seen, including what is in my restaurant,
Hmm.
high season gratuities are usually 2 or 3 times the
Hmm.
gratuities in low season. But it is one important thing that we must also remember is that in the low season, you are still not allowed to pay your employees below the minimum wage. So if your gratuities do not meet the minimum wage, the company has to make up the difference. So there's not, it really, it's an important clarification. When the term slave wages and whatnot are thrown around, I cringe because I know that I have seen pay slips and I've seen documentation where individuals are earning $30 or $40 an hour
Hmm.
because they're good and they work for a good company, and that company, has a thriving business with the volume that is necessary. Most service workers,
Mm-hmm.
when you say, I want to hire another employee, whether it's a housekeeper or whether it's a waiter or something, they say, no, 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 no. No, we can handle it because they want, they work as a team. They want to have the opportunity to earn that money. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel that I'm not saying that there are not some rogue
Mm-hmm.
companies out there. I
Yes.
can't speak to that, but I am telling you what I have experienced, what I have been told, what I have been shown
Mm-hmm.
is that we have a very clearly defined
Mm-hmm.
methodology for taking gratuities slash service charges, pooling them, and distributing them fairly to our
Mm-hmm.
workers who are actually well paid. And people are usually shocked when they realize how much can be made in the hospitality industry. It's
Mm-hmm.
not for everyone, but let me tell you, if you enjoy this sort of work, you can make money.
Mm-hmm.
Servers often do not want to be promoted into management because management don't get the tip. It's like, no, 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 I'll stay as a server. Yeah, I've been a server for 10 years, but I'll stay as a server because you know what? I can make 5 grand a month.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I think that it is important for us to really peel back the onion and understand all of the different aspects of how remuneration and income actually happens. But one important point to remember
Mm-hmm.
is that gratuities that are taken in and distributed through approved gratuity
Mm-hmm.
schemes,
Mm-hmm.
the employee has to pay their pension on that, and the
Mm-hmm.
employer has to pay their pension. In the law, it is considered income. So
Mm.
I'll leave you
Might
with
I
that.
interject?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we have a caller. Hold on one second before you go,
Sure,
Troy. Maybe this caller might have a
sure.
question for you. Go ahead, caller.
Um, Mr. Troy, good morning. Thank you
Mm-hmm.
for
Good
coming
morning.
on.
Good morning.
I'm still not clear. I mean, I'm not a business owner,
Mm-hmm.
but could you clarify? I mean, I heard you talk about gratuity scheme. The gratuity monies, does it go toward, I'm sitting down and I'm using up AC in your restaurant. Somebody has to clean up after me in the restaurant. Is that what the gratuities goes toward?
Okay, so if a business,
In
yeah,
layman's terms, sir, please.
okay, no, so if a business, yeah, if a business collects $5,000 in gratuities
Yes.
or service charge in the month, right? So every tab, you'll have a computer system. The computer system says this is your sales, and the computer system says this is your gratuity, right? So if my
Mm-hmm.
computer system shows me that my restaurant took in, whatever, $3,000 or $4,000 or whatever it is in gratuities in the month, my report to the Department of Labor and Pension shows at the top I took in $4,000 in gratuities. And then it shows how much I paid out to each employee. So here's the front of the house, the servers, waiters, here's the chef, here's the dishwasher,
Mm-hmm.
everybody. And that total at the top needs to total the total at the bottom, which is the total that I paid out. Every penny that comes in
Mm-hmm.
as a service charge must be paid out and must be reported how it's paid out. So there's, whether the money goes into the bank account, washes here, or that, the point is that every penny that comes in must be paid out to the employees in a scheme that is pre-approved and must be reported on every pay period, not once a year, every pay period. So
Mm-hmm.
it's highly regulated, highly regulated.
No, sorry, Mr. Troy. I don't think I was clear in what okay, so I sit down at a meal. Okay, if I call pick up food, I place an order and I come to pick
Mm-hmm.
up food, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the price of that meal is, I don't know, let's say $50, right? Let's say it's for me and somebody else. I'm picking it up. I pay $50 for that meal. I pay no gratuity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to where I come and I sit down in your restaurant. I get that same meal. The meal is $50, but on
Mm-hmm.
top of that bill is a 15% gratuity. 15% is what?
Yeah.
10%. That's what? $10, around $10 added to
Yeah.
that, right?
Yeah.
What I'm asking for is that $10 extra on my bill. What am I paying for? Am I paying for the AC and the lights that I'm using up? Am I paying for somebody to clean up after myself? what is the 10%? What is that 15% gratuity for?
Okay, so in our culture of a service charge or a gratuity, if you had to directly link that to something, it would be the service provided by the employees, not just the server that's taking your order or is bringing you your plate, but the support staff behind that server, the buses, the assistant servers, the chef in the kitchen, the sous chef, the dishwasher. They all share in that, and every penny of it goes to them. So that's exactly right. It's a non-mandatory but specified amount that we're asking you to pay that is going towards the provision of service. And this is not unique to Cayman at all. Not at all, right? This is quite universal. It's long-standing, right? And it leads to very good service by very competent teams. This is why, Sandra, this is why people will leave North America with a university degree and come to Cayman and be a server because they are earning thousands of dollars a month. Okay? So this is why we have the quality of service that we have in Cayman. And I am not going to, we have exceptional service in the Cayman Islands.
Sorry, before I'd like to interject once more because I don't want to go off track of my point. Well, if that is the case, if that is the purpose of the gratuities, why isn't that baked into the price of the meal?
Okay, hold on one second. Let me just add one more person. They might have a question for Troy, so I want to just join the call. 1 second. All right, folks. So great opportunity to ask some questions here if you have any. But
I have a question for the speaker president.
One second. Caller, hold on. You're coming in hot and heavy, but let's have him answer the previous question first. Troy, the question then that caller's asking is, why not incorporate that into the price of the food itself?
Okay, so if we work in an industry, okay, that has a set way of working, that is long-standing, that is universal, to change that is monumental. Just think of you as a user, right? You come and you see a headline price. It's like seeing an airline ticket, right? An airline ticket is $100, but you got to pay $25 if you want to carry your luggage, right? So the reality, we operate in a consumer market environment. So obviously the headline price of anything is going to matter. So why would my small business, who has had this arrangement for years, say, I'm going to raise my prices 15% and I'm going to do away with the gratuity? I mean, it would not make business sense for me to do that.
Not only that, but in the name of transparency. I mean, CUC says this all the time. In their line of business, they are more transparent than a lot of other like utility companies, right? So, Flow and Logic and all these people, they're charging you that stuff. They just don't break it down in the way that CUC does. CUC breaks it down. So you see what the fuel charge is, you see what your kilowatt usage is, you see all of these elements. It's completely transparent. I can imagine if you tried to incorporate it into the food price, all of a sudden people would be like, oh my God, why is a plate of spaghetti $25 now when it used to be $10 or whatever? They'd be cussing because they're not understanding. So I think really it's to keep things aligned in a way that makes sense. So the price of the food is for the price of the food.
It can still be removed. It can still be removed from the bill. If you do not get the service that you think that you
exactly
warrants that, you can have it removed from the bill. So it's still and
it's not mandatory.
Exactly.
But then what's the purpose of a tip afterwards?
But the tip is not. No one asks for a tip.
I understand that, sir, but I'm trying to.
Because some people want to go. Some people want to go above and beyond. Yeah. Let me ask you another question, Troy, to explain this one, because we did get an example, and I'm going to throw this up on the screen for the benefit of our viewers. So someone said, they're still a little bit confused about where the money goes. So now that you've explained that there is this, gratuity scheme that has to be registered.
It's approved gratuity.
Yes, that's fantastic. I mean, I didn't really know that. So this person is asking, so the 15% on the bill goes to everyone. If they do an extra percent then for additional tip, who does that go to? Is that only going to go to the person serving you?
Okay, so it depends on the establishment. Okay, so so very typically, that tip is not a lot of money, right? So the culture in the establishment might be the server of that table takes that. I also know some establishments will pool tips, and the shift shares the tips. Do you understand what I mean? So in other words, the extra $2, $3 here kind of goes in. They're cashing out at the end of the night. They got $200, and there were 4 people, working that night on the. It's usually to the front of house, right? It's to the servers and whatnot. And they might agree between them that they're going to pool tips, right? I have a private charter business, and when we run charters, and an amount of money is given by the guests to the crew. We have 2 crew on our boats. That money is split between the 2. So that's the way we do things. But that's not an approved gratuity scheme, right? That's a tip. So different businesses.
So that's not subject to pension payments and
not at all. Exactly. That I don't even see that. I don't even know how much it is. In terms of running the business, right? So that's what I'm saying is that the term gratuity and tip is used interchangeably, but they are 2 different things, not only from a business standpoint, but also from a legal standpoint. They're 2 different things.
So to be clear, my final thing before I go. So to be clear, if I go to a restaurant and I get subpar service, I can ask for that to be removed, and they have to remove that gratuity charge?
Absolutely.
Thank you for clarifying.
The only thing that they can charge you is actually what is on the menu. And usually most menus will say a 10% or a 15% gratuity will be added, but absolutely, that is not a mandatory payment. You can ask to have that removed from your bill.
And here's another point, caller, 1 second before you go. J.A. Hart makes a fair point. He says gratuities only go to employees, not for electricity or rent. That 15% goes straight to staff only. So if you incorporate it into the food, you'd see where it'd be very, very difficult to then figure that out, right? Because the cost of goods, and I'm glad we're having this discussion because we've talked about businesses and stuff before. When you figure out how to price an item, included in that is your cost of goods and cost of operating your business. So everything from your rent to your utilities to whatever else is your cost of doing business, that is included in the price of your food. To put that together with the price of gratuities, you wouldn't be able to split it in the way that you really have to legally. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if we said that we're going to roll back decades of the way that this is done and is done throughout our jurisdiction or hemisphere, we're going to change this. This would have an unbelievable effect on businesses that have this model. We would lose employees because you've got schemes that are set up. The kitchen is paid at this wage, the front of house is paid at this wage, the waiters and servers, they get, this percentage of the gratuity. Schemes are devised for, in some cases, in my business, maybe 8 or 9 people versus, 4 or 5 or 600 people in a large hotel. So you imagine changing that and saying, oh, we're not going to do it this way anymore. Now gratuities are going to go into prices.
So different people at different levels get paid different.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, say that bit again. Different people at different levels get paid.
No, I was just asking for him to clarify because I was saying, so for example, the server versus the dishwasher versus
exactly.
So I would assume the chef would have been paid the same because if I ordered the meal out, I'm assuming that some of that money goes to the chef anyway, so I wouldn't even include the chef in that. But
the thing is, again, it's not in every business, but in our business, for example, what we call the back of house, the kitchen, the chef, they also get a small amount because again, it's this whole team, right? So some businesses may, and here's another important point: if you want to change the scheme, the employees have to agree to the change. So a business can't just suddenly decide, well, oh, we're going to do this change. So this money belongs to the employees. They agree how it's going to be distributed. It's documented. The Department of Labor and Pensions approves that, and you have to report against that to the penny every pay period. And it's pensionable, right? So this is not like just this slush fund over here that the company.
All right, hold on one second, Troy. We have another person we're going to just put on hold. What we do is we'll put you on hold and then join. So I think we've got 4 people on at the moment. So sorry, Troy, go ahead.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is that this is not just some money that is just the business does with it what it wants to do with it. This is a scheme that's set up. Employees agree to it. It's approved. It's reported on, and we pay pension on it.
Okay. All right. Troy, can we beg you to stay on the line and just answer a few more questions for us?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Wonderful. So again, we've got Troy Leacock on the line, folks. He's the president of the Cayman Islands Tourism Association. So one person says, Sandy, can you ask Troy, can a restaurant refuse to serve a customer who refuses to pay gratuity? Well, if it's not mandatory, I wouldn't think so.
No, absolutely not. Yeah, absolutely not.
Yeah. What about gratuities and takeout orders? We see that happening sometimes. Is that?
Well, I have to say that I've encountered that in one establishment, and even somebody being in the industry was like, wow, So yeah, it's again, it's an individual business, right? I guess that 5% or whatever they're charging on takeout that goes into their approved gratuity scheme, and it's maybe what the previous caller said. The back of house is still cooking the meal, the front of house is taking the order. They're whatever, they're greeting you, whatever. So maybe in that model, they feel that they're warranted having a 5% or whatever in takeout. It's also like some restaurants have 18%. Some might have, hotels in particular might have 20%. So again, the law and the industry doesn't dictate the amount. You could have a restaurant that opt for a 10% service charge. It doesn't have to be 15%. But the point is that if we are taking it in, then it has to be distributed to the employees. It is not the restaurant's money to do with what it wants to do with. It is money that's taken in on behalf of the employees and must be distributed according to a pre-approved scheme.
All right. Here's some people are still confused. I'm glad Troy is taking the time to explain this. So Bink says that grats go towards chefs, hostesses, dishwasher, cleaners, and servers. Salvin says, why not call gratuity at the collection point rather than a service charge? Now we're collecting service charge, convert it to gratuity. So the name of what is collected changed, but the collection doesn't. Make it easier rather than confusing the whole thing. Collect gratuities and pay out gratuities.
Well, okay, let's just think about this for a second, right? Look at how confused we all are here talking about gratuities, right? So, the label on the ticket probably legally doesn't matter whether you have gratuity. I mean, I think I've seen some menus that say a 10% service charge, another will say a 15% gratuity. I think that, what's important is that you understand in the words, right? Service charge, gratuity effectively means the same thing. Tip is different. And that's really the distinction.
Yes.
So
and it's important that you understand them in the context of Cayman as well.
Exactly. In the US, the words gratuity really aren't really thrown around, right?
Yeah.
Service charge, people understand that. I mean, you go into some restaurants that have, I haven't seen any in Cayman, maybe I don't get out enough, but I've been into restaurants and restaurants in Europe, by the way, there's a bread charge, right? They bring bread to your table. You haven't asked for the bread. They bring the bread to the table and you get a tab and it shows bread charge, right? I didn't ask for bread, right? So, but that's very much a European thing, so they charge you for the bread, all right? So again, you must understand that, there are different cultural, economic, business models, regulation models, and we must not just have a knee-jerk reaction to saying this is how it should be, because the important thing is that Cayman has an excellent scheme, right? Maybe there's a bit of enforcement here and there that needs tightened up. I'm not saying there are not some of those operators, but generally speaking, Cayman has an exceptional remuneration schemes for service industry, and that's why we attract the very best in the world to come and offer service in Cayman. What I want to do is attract the very best Caymanians into the service industry. That's what I
Mhm.
want.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
this is the kind of information that we need to make sure get out to our young people, that they understand the kinds of careers that they can develop in the hospitality and accommodation industry in Cayman, and they can make very good money. It's not
Mhm.
for everybody. You have to work Sundays, sometimes you have to work public holidays, you have to work odd hours. When everybody else is relaxing, you're working because they're relaxing at your establishment, right? So it's not
Mhm.
for everyone. But if you are the kind of person that would like this, good money can be made here.
Mhm. All right, we had another caller in the line who had a question for you, caller. Ending in I think 1110. Hello, caller.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Yes,
Hi.
morning,
Quick
Sandra.
thing.
Hold on. I think it was the other one that had the question. Go ahead. Hold on. I think it was the other one that had. All right, and whoever has their radio on, please turn that off for me.
My question to Mr. Lee, to Troy, is that if grants were never mandatory, why they wait so long to actually come out and publicly speak it, right? Two, you how restaurant that charges you, if you look at their receipt, charge you grants and service charge, and how is PISA or the pension board, because pension board always messing up, is so sure that the staff is getting the grants and it's not going elsewhere. They can't put their head on the chopping block for the grants if they don't know where they're going. You can send a report that it's going somewhere when it's not. It has happened before.
Okay, so I mean, I'm not saying that somebody couldn't make a mistake or intentionally misreport. Okay, that's
Mhm.
possible with anything. That's
Mhm.
possible with immigration laws. That's possible with pension. You could underpay your pension. You know, you could say that you have health insurance for your employees and you don't. But
Mhm.
everything is auditable, right? Everything.
Mhm.
You know, most restaurants run on a point of sale system that
Right,
gives
and
you
this is where enforcement comes in.
yeah, exactly. I mean, so you know, and the thing is, Sandra, okay, please listen to me really carefully on this, okay? No one is going to work in a job in which they feel they are being underpaid.
Mhm.
They will go to another establishment. People move between restaurants and all the time because we are always looking for good staff. The food and beverage service, the restaurant industry in Cayman is always looking for talented people, right? And it's much easier to take somebody from another restaurant than to get a work permit and bring them in and all of that sort of stuff,
Mhm.
right? So people in the restaurant industry will move around all the time. They're always looking for that next better opportunity. You know, I was an assistant cook in the kitchen, and now I could be a chef over here, or I was an assistant server. I was a server in the smaller restaurant. Now I can move up to this more profitable restaurant. So we have to pay market rate in order for the employees. This idea that there's this slave labor is absolutely. I mean, it's if you're in the industry, it's laughable.
Mhm.
Okay, it's laughable because we have to pay the money to get the quality of staff that we need. And
Mhm.
if you go out in Cayman, and if you travel, that the service that we provide in Cayman in our hospitality and accommodation industry is second to none. And I mean any country, whether it's Canada, United States, we have the best service, I think, in the world in Cayman. All right. And the
Mhm.
only reason we get that is because we employ the best people. And the only way that you are going to employ and keep the best people is to pay them what they feel that they deserve. It's as simple as that.
Not cutting Mr. Troy off, but that's his opinion because I've traveled the world and I've had top of the line service. I've had a server come every 1 minute, every 2 minutes to make sure that your service, the service we get here now, a lot of us complaining about it because the
Mhm.
service doesn't smile. They're not polite. They're not professional. If they're not throwing
Well, I can
utensils
tell you
down,
one
they're
thing.
not coming
It's
back to the
all
table.
it's certainly
So,
all relative, caller, because recently I was telling people I traveled to Jamaica on a family trip. A cousin was getting married, and I thought the restaurants that we went to, a lot of them, their service was lacking. I'm like, I get better service in Cayman any day than what I was experiencing there. So I guess it's just all a matter of, we
you
can
have
all
to have a
say,
passion. You have to have a passion.
yeah, and that's across the board, no matter where you are. Yeah.
Exactly. And you got people going in jobs just to say they're in a job to get a
Yep.
paycheck and
Yeah.
expect you to give them grants and give them tips. And if you don't,
Regardless
then
of
they
the
give you a
level of
pay,
service.
right?
Yeah.
Exactly. But those were my
Thank you so much,
questions, and
caller.
I'm
Appreciate it. So let me just, again, I'm not sure that this other listener's point was clarified. So she said, if like you have a gratuities line, then you have one for additional tips. She wants to know if that additional tip line is going directly to her server, or is that also then going to go in the pool of gratuities? It's on a separate line on the receipt.
No. So if the receipt shows a 15% service charge, or I mean, it could even possibly be worded gratuity, but if the calculation is in the bill, then that is administered according to the approved gratuity scheme. If there's another line that says tip, and I think a lot of receipts will have that, and you put $2 on that, then that goes into either directly to that server. I mean, in our case, at the end of the night, the server will say, well, I have $17 extra, and they'll just cash that out. If the culture in the restaurant is that I take my 17 and you take your 20 and she takes her 11, and we're going to pull it all together, split it, between the three of us, but it's a tip. The restaurant is not involved in it. It doesn't calculate it. It doesn't monitor it. It doesn't distribute it. It's something that goes right to the staff, basically,
Okay. So the staff determines how that's done, or management determines how that's done?
Usually, I mean, I guess, again, different establishments, right? Usually the staff will agree between them. I mean, there's a culture, in the business, that this is how we do this. I think more often than not, it's a small amount, and it's, in many cases, it's probably taken by the main server. But again, like I said, if the main server says, boy, dishwasher, you guys really cracked it tonight, or the kitchen was really busy, here you go, $10 each or whatever from my tips or whatever. These people work, they work together for long hours, right? Relying and supporting and helping each other. So again, different businesses have different cultures, right? So, but we must not sit outside the industry and presuppose how it works. It's, that we cannot do that. We have to understand how it works.
All right. One more caller is on the line, I believe. Caller, you have a question or comment? Hello, caller. Oh, Troy, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still
okay.
here.
I'm not sure if they got disconnected, but 936 Bobo's telephone number. So again, folks, Troy, we really appreciate you coming on the program to answer the questions that have been coming in hot and heavy for you. Some of people I think are confused. I think this has certainly, for me, clarified a couple points. Damien says it depends on the business if it's pooled or separated to the server. So again, hopefully that answers that person's. It's so shocking that we all eat out and we all utilize these services, but so few of us actually know how any of this works.
Yep.
It just, we had no clue. So if nothing else that has come out of this, at least we'll have some degree of clarity. Now, in terms of the minimum wage, obviously this is a discussion that's on the table. Someone made the point, let me just read this comment here, that an important point to input here of the $6 minimum wage, the companies only pay $4.50, and the company can use gratuities to pay the other $1.50. So the question is, are or should gratuities be a part of the minimum wage?
Okay, so the way that the law is currently drafted is that if you receive gratuities under an approved gratuity scheme, so let's just make sure we understand that, right? So if you receive gratuities under an approved gratuity scheme, the minimum wage that you are paid can be the lesser amount. So it can be $4.50. So basically, what it says is that the minimum wage is $6 unless you are paid gratuities as part of an approved gratuity scheme, in which case your minimum wage is $4.50. But in no event, in no pay period, shall you be paid less than $6. So if your gratuity averages $1 an hour in that pay period, you get $4.50 and you get $1. The company has to pay you the additional 50 cents. So you can still not receive less than the minimum wage. If you go on vacation, if you're sick, maternity leave, you are paid at $6 an hour. So the company is still has to make sure you're not paid less than the minimum wage. But if the company has an approved gratuity scheme and your gratuities in any pay period is more than takes you above the $6, then the wage can be $4.50. So it doesn't have to be $4.50. It could be $5. It could be $5.50. But it just allows that establishment to pay you less than the legal minimum wage of $6.
Yes.
But you have to be registered in an approved gratuities scheme. Okay, that's the important point. That's unlike in the United States, where if you're a server, I think the federal minimum wage for servers is something like $2. You know, I mean, I'm just kind of pulling this a little bit off the top of my head, but what I'm saying is that in the United States, which doesn't have the kind of regulated schemes that we're talking about in Cayman, if you're a server, you don't have to be paid the $12 or whatever, which is the minimum wage. You can be paid.
So let me tell you what it is, because this is so interesting. I had no idea. According to the Department of what is the hourly wage for tip workers, federal law sets the minimum basic wage, cash wage, at $2.13 per hour, but many states mandate a higher amount. So thank God for that, because that's something.
But the point is, right, is that every jurisdiction, whether it's federal or whether it's states, recognizes that there is going to be an amount of income that comes in through tips, gratuities, whatever. That's universal. Bermuda just this year implemented a minimum wage. The minimum wage, I think, is 15 Bermuda dollars, which, you know, more or less the same in the US, I think. But if you are paid gratuities, the entire amount, not just the $1.50, as it is in Cayman right now, the entire amount can be paid from gratuities. So, you know, this is not unique to Cayman. If anything, Cayman has the most heavily structured, clearly structured, and heavily regulated and enforced, and that's why we attract good people in our service industry.
Yes. Well, I know what they're dying to come here. I mean, we have more Canadian workers in the service industry than anywhere in the world, and I mean, people from all over the world. You know, just over the weekend, Troy, we're going to start to wrap this up a little bit, but I saw a comment that gave me pause, where a person was like, "Oh, you know, I took a trip to Austria, and okay, man, it's just we're horrible here. We have so much to do." And I had to pause and said to myself, you know, it's amazing when people get a little bit of exposure to, you know, something else. They get to travel, which is the importance of traveling, really. We all of a sudden want to put down our own country about how horrible things are, but everything is relative. Every country in the world has issues. And most of the time when you go on vacation and holiday somewhere else, you don't get to see the issues. You get to see the glam and the nice hotels, and the person who's showing you around is showing you the best that Austria has to offer. They're not taking you to the slums of Austria, if they have slums. I don't know anything about Austria, but you know, they're not taking you to those places. You don't get to see poverty. You don't get to see all these other issues that they're struggling with. Living here, you see the full reality of a country, especially a country of this size. So I always try to take my hats off to, yes, we're not perfect and we have a lot of work to do. We don't want to go down, you know, this tumbling road of things never getting any better and any improvement, but we're still one of the best places in the world. And the reason why your Austrian boyfriend has come to the Cayman Islands, there's a legitimate reason for that.
Yes, absolutely. You know, many people see.
You know what I'm saying? It's normally the money. Yeah, it's normally the money and opportunities that are here. So don't be too quick to knock this little rock when so many people are dying to come here. And the crazy part is, not only are they dying to come here, but they're able to, you know, set themselves up in businesses and industries and do all this stuff that Caymanians just sit back and complain and can't hustle and do for themselves.
It is important for us, industry leaders, government leaders, community leaders. It is important for us to make sure that we're educating and motivating all of our Caymanians, especially young Caymanians, to take advantage of the opportunities that others come here and take advantage of, right? But, you know, that has to start from really uplifting each other, not tearing each other down, and making sure that we are, as you say, looking for the positives with what we have here and making sure that we are giving the correct information. So many people feel that, the tourism industry, the hospitality industry or whatever, it's underpaid and all that. And nothing could be further from the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing could be further from the truth, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we've got to make sure that information gets out there so
Mm-hmm.
that people really understand the opportunities and say, hey, yeah, I don't want to work in a bank
Mm-hmm.
wearing a tie. I would love to work on a front desk and greet guests, or I want to work on a boat. Or
I want to be that bellman that's making $100,000 a year.
Exactly. Now it's seasonal, right? So
Yes.
if you're not the kind of person that can earn 3 times more in March and April, but then, struggling, in October,
Yes.
if you can't manage your
finances,
you can't manage your finances, you can't manage your lifestyle and whatever, then maybe it's not you. It is a seasonal business. It's
Mm-hmm.
seasonal, it's long hours, it's weekends, it's public holidays,
Mm-hmm.
so it's not for everybody.
Yes.
But for those who love it and develop a career in it, they make very good money.
Yes.
It's as simple as that. And you can travel the world. There are many benefits you get from working in the hospitality industry. You pay fractions at the hotel rate when you travel within.
Mm-hmm.
If you work for a hotel chain, you can travel and pay a fraction
Mm-hmm.
of what the rack rate is. I mean, there's huge benefits.
Yes.
We even get benefits amongst ourselves in the industry.
Right.
Industry discounts and things like that. There's a tremendous opportunity. I don't think that there's any industry. Well, education is pretty important, but but I don't think that there's any industry that is more fun to be in, more vibrant,
Mm-hmm.
that you meet more people, more interesting people than our tourism industry. And that, and I'm sorry, I just simply will
Mm-hmm.
not let anyone knock it down and say, we're not paying fairly
Mm-hmm.
or whatever, because nothing could be further from the truth.
And of course, if you work for a company that isn't paying, you need to report them to DLP. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, and you know what you're going to do? You're
Mm-hmm.
going to go to another company, because believe you me, everybody's looking.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Everybody is looking. We have thousands of people in this industry, and any good business in Cayman is always looking, especially Caymanian, you're looking for good Caymanian. So
Mm-hmm.
believe you me, if you're working and you feel like you're being, underpaid or mismanaged or whatever, there are going to be other opportunities out there for
Mm-hmm.
you,
Mm-hmm.
because we work in a market economy, and we're subject to market forces.
All right. Well, Troy Leacock, president of the Cayman Islands Tourism Association. We had a comment here from one of our listeners, and let me just pull up his name here. His name is, I think it was Alberto. Sorry. Alberto says, please give my gratitude to Mr. Troy. He has cleared up a lot of things. He's cleared a lot of things up and elevated my understanding. Now I will explain to my friends and family when they visit, some of their criticism is wrong. So another person who has worked HR in the industry says, I'm so grateful that Troy is on air. Thank you so much.
Well, that makes me feel that. Thanks for those comments.
I appreciate it.
Listeners, I appreciate it, because sometimes you feel beaten down, so I really do.
Yeah, no, it's
Thank you so
it
much.
takes time to educate people. And normally you have to say it more than once. Maybe what CETA should do in conjunction with some of the hotels and some of the other properties is start to put together some PSAs out there so that they can get circulated and people can, have an idea of exactly how all of this works. I think that would be awesome.
We education and information and transparency and all that is definitely part of what we have to do. There's no question. And I'm realizing that more now. As I listen to, to shows and, like yours this morning, I'm realizing, wow, okay, we're in the industry, right? So we assume, well, of course, everybody knows that, you make good money here. Well, who doesn't? But then you realize that there are just a lot of misconceptions and misinformation out there, and we've got to address that. So, yes. So
thank you
for the opportunity.
I appreciate it.
All right.
All right, my dear. Have a good one.
Okay, then.
All right. We do have another call. And speaking of PSAs, there's an important one that I want to play very, very quickly in case you start to run out of time, because I've got an 11 o'clock. I want to be at that big announcement this morning. But listen to this quick PSA from the Health Ministry. Really important information, folks. Make sure that you share this.
The STEPS 2023 National Health Survey has been extended to September 3rd to maximise participation and give us the best data possible. If you've been chosen to participate, please say yes to Step 3. For more information, contact the STEPS team on 936 4969 or email mhwsteps